Welcome into another episode of Cheat Code Weekly, where we discuss everything video game collecting and investing. I'm, of course, Greg, joined here once again by Henry. And what we want to talk about today is rarity, scarcity, supply, and demand. Kind of all of these concepts, how they're actually used and defined within the collectibles hobby, because I'm sure you've heard all of those words, but especially rarity and scarcity. They sound like the exact same thing, but they actually have specific definitions within this realm. And it's one of those things with supply, demand, and how it functions with rarity and scarcity, where in the hobby of video game collecting, and this is just cartridges, CIBs, one of the things you're always going to hear from your casual people is, oh my god, why are Marios and Pokemon so expensive? They are some of the most sold games, most printed games, most common games that exist, right? Yet, they are also some of the most expensive games on their respective consoles. I think cartridges of Emerald are like peaking out at around 300 again. Like that's all the way. I think
That's
it's higher
crazy.
than COVID. I think it's like all time highs now because I made a video I think 2 or 3 years ago talking about Emerald cartridge prices at 150. And it was like a meme video of like, oh my god, can they even get any higher? And like the answer was yes, yes,
That
they can get a
that's
lot higher.
that sounds like money laundering to me, man.
Yeah, right? Who's paying 300 bucks for an Emerald cartridge? But that's where the concept supply demand rarity scarcity comes from, and we're going to kind of get into a debate here as we go about should you focus your collecting investing on the pure rarity side of things? How much does demand matter? How much does supply matter? Where should you kind of target?
Yeah, I mean, back then, in the day when I was on Digipress in the early 2000s, I mean, e eBay was around then, I believe, but clearly not to this level. So, how a lot of people collected was they basically went off of the Digipress Rarity Guide, which is, I don't even know how they came up with those numbers, but if it's like 1 to 10, it's like nines are super rare. They're like Atari prototypes and stuff. And I was buying all the Atari prototypes because, like, oh, it's a nine. It's better than an eight. It's not a 10, so I was buying them up.
Do you remember that
And
web without the do you remember the website that also had the percentage thing? It was like, oh, this game's an 84% rarity. Oh, this game's only a 6%. I don't remember what site that was, but that was another one I used
I
way
don't know
back
that
then.
one. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Someone will
But
know. Someone will know.
I remember Digipress Guide. So that's what people were buying. That's why Stadium Events was like, this ultra high-end grail. I mean, it still is because it's had that like hobby relevance for such a long time. But it's really during the pandemic when, uh, grading came around and people were spending big bucks on games where like the Marios and the Zeldas really started outpacing all these like, Red Sea crossings and all that stuff. Like how much was Red Sea Crossing before it sold? Like 15-20K? Like if you were to put that up again today, I mean, I think it would be lucky to get 20K,
Yeah, and that kind of
right?
price point was like 2011 or 2012 for Red Sea Crossing. Like it's
Yeah,
insanity.
so that's probably equivalent to like six figures today, right? So it's yeah, game collecting has changed a lot, and
Game
it's not
collecting,
only
I was gonna say it truly focused only on rarity, basically. Like it was purely
yeah.
rarity, objective, how many exist, driven.
Yeah, it's not only with graded games. It's even like you said, Pokemon Emerald cards are $300, guys. It's just everywhere. So everyone's collecting what they actually want and not what's just quote unquote rare. So if you go to the definitions, right, rarity is just how much supply is out there. And this is basically known supply. We just came up with a recent example of Duck Dodgers, right? Like total pop of nine or something, and
Yep.
then this guy comes up with like 12, like basically new in box, like new from the case pack type of game. It just basically torpedoes that whole rarity,
But yeah, the
story.
objective rarity of Duck Dodgers, especially factory sealed, just like got turned on its head. The population
Yeah.
doubled. Like that is objective statistics of what we know. That's what happens when we talk about rarity.
Yeah, and so that's the risk where you run with rarity. It's if something gets found and most of the value of that game is based off of how rare it is, you could get really screwed. Whereas with scarcity, it does add in a factor of demand. It's like how badly people want to have the game. So there's a reason why Pokemon Emerald cards are $300. There's a reason why any nice CIB like sticker seal Mario, like not sticker seal, but like sticker Marios are expensive. There's a reason why, games that people really want to buy are expensive and not just complete rarity games, right? Obviously, you're gonna have like your NWC Grays, your stadium event carts that go for $20,000, but by and large, like I don't know, do you think times of lore, just the cart is going to be really expensive?
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
think
Too
so.
much supply. Like it
Yeah,
is. Because we
yeah,
see on the ultra rarity side where it has value, but as soon as that supply ticks up at all, and this is to the point of Duck Dodgers
exactly.
there, as soon as something renowned for being rare has its objective rarity changed, there doesn't exist demand to scoop all that up. So it just floods. Whereas,
Yeah,
Pokemon cartridges, Mario's, what? There was a case of Smash Bros, right? How long did that last?
yep.
All six copies were absorbed by the market. Something like that, where you actually have the demand to absorb it as well. That's when scarcity enters the conversation as your function of rarity versus demand. And then you
Well,
find your nice little equilibriums, and the market all loves it.
it did affect the price because I think
It
the
dipped for what, like a month or two?
yeah, a month or two, but it did like cut in half. I think the lowest it sold for, I think it was privately something, it was maybe like 40K, 40 50K.
Was
And
that the
then what it
9.8?
sold for, yeah, 9.8.
Yeah,
I think what it sold for before was like around 80 or 90.
yeah.
And now obviously one hasn't popped up in a while, but I'm assuming it's probably around going to be around the 50 60 range.
I
So,
think I think when that case came up, we did like the buy sell hold on Smash Bros. Because I think the 9.6 A plus plus bottomed at like 15,000 on eBay, if that sounds right, maybe
yeah.
16,000, and that's already back up to
Yep.
30,000. There's more recent sales now where the 9.6 just completely, I guess, corrected itself from the influx of supply. And that's one last thing I do want to say with scarcity here. Objective rarity exists, the number that exists. Scarcity can always change. That's the biggest thing. Rarity can as well, obviously, if there's a case back find, but scarcity, given that it is a function of demand, it's like if someone makes a YouTube video hyping up a game, all of a sudden scarcity goes through the roof because demand goes through the roof. So people are clearing it out, people are buying it, all that stuff. It could be that a new copy or a sequel comes out, right? And so everyone rushes out to buy the old game. Basically, any activity where the demand can spike or go down. That's what functions on scarcity versus rarity being a change in supply. That's how you look at them. One functions on demand, one functions on supply. Rarity, scarcity. Hopefully that's easy enough to follow with that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, there's a reason why the 86 Fleer Jordan, even though it has like 300 something PSA 10s, it keeps selling for like 200K. 300 sounds like a lot to us, but if you do the market cap on PSA 10s, that's millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's crazy. But anyway,
PSA 10 Pokemon cards with 10,000 pop. Sell for $1,000, $2,000, $10,000. Doesn't matter. No one cares, right? No one cares. And that's going to come into the
exactly.
next thing, I guess, here a bit, where should you focus supply or demand? And also here, there was comments in the Discord about it's like if a game is pop one, right? We know it's pop one. Okay,
Yeah.
you can only kind of transact on that. But if a game is, let's say, pop five, but it only ever comes available once, does that actually change the way you would transact on something? Because from like a scarcity model, it's the same amount of, I think the word is float, right? The amount of copies that come up versus
Float.
the number
Yeah.
of copies that exist. The actual
Yeah.
float would be the same, but we know five copies exist. How do you base that on then?
I mean, obviously, I think most people would say if it was pop one, you clearly would pay more for it because it literally is only chance. I don't think there's any way for you to guarantee something not to pop up if it's a pop five for those other four copies to never show up. And that's the risk that you run, right? Like, okay, maybe unless if you know it's like some super rich dude actually owns all other four copies, and the only way that you can get it is if you buy this one copy, then maybe. But even then, it's like it's the risk that you run that maybe that guy doesn't want to collect that game anymore and just fire sells it. You
And
can't control other people, so
so
that's the risk
what's
that you run.
is the risk of the other five, say, coming to market? Like, what risk would you rather take on? There's pop five, pop six, pop 10, whatever it is. You're going to buy one. You don't know if those are going to hit the market, or it's pop one, but you don't know if there's going to be pop two. Because a lot of stuff that we see, I mean, that
Yeah,
Super
it's true.
Nintendo console, I think that GameCube console that sold for like 50,000, that's pop one stuff where so much value. We know it. Like that Super Nintendo console for 40,000 in VGA 80, we know that what, 50% of that value is wrapped up in the fact that it's pop one. Where would
Yeah.
you want to take that risk?
If I had to choose, I'd do still obviously do a pop one. But I mean, you have to say that it has to come down to if it's the same price. If I'm paying more for the pop one than the pop five,
Well, you would
then it's
be, but
something. I
you're
would be, yes. I mean,
yeah, you would be.
it depends on how much more you're paying. So.
Assume it's like yeah, I understand with how much you're paying, but assume your downside risk is essentially the same. What risk would you rather take on? That the other copies are going to hit market or that new ones are going to come out? Or be found, I guess.
Okay, so I guess that function is then if you're talking about a Pop 5, it's probably a pretty good game or a pretty good console or whatever, and it has that value because people want it, right? Versus it just being times of lore, and then you
Yeah.
got to buy it because it's a Pop 1, and if another one comes up, then you're like, well, maybe I have to buy it again, but it's gonna be half price or something,
I think
right?
that's genuinely a consideration those people make. If Times of Lore came up again, I would not be surprised if the person who bought the first one goes ahead and bids again on the next one. You kind of have to. Going to Duck Dodgers again, right? Like, I think this is the biggest example we can give here where I don't think there's even an argument for if we know more pop exists, you simply can't bid as much. Because I think we've both heard, right, over the years here, there's more copies of stadium events out there than we will ever know actually exist. And that harkens back to the days of Tim Atwood,
Tim
right? And
Atwood.
I'm sure you heard about people were signing NDAs to own copies of stadium events from his cases or whatever. Did you hear about that
Yeah,
back in the day?
I did, yeah.
Yep. So more copies of stadium events out there than you'll ever know. So I've always heard that, right? And stadium events still sell super strong. We may never know how many are truly out there. They may never hit the market. But Duck Dodgers was a pop one on Heritage 9.8 A plus plus that just sold for $9,000. Like you said, there's what, 10 case fresh copies that were just found now?
Yeah.
Those might never hit the market. Let's just say they don't. Is anyone going to pay $9,000 for Duck Dodgers right now?
I don't think so
You
because they
can't,
know that
right?
exists.
You
Well,
can't.
so that's the same thing if it's pop five, but only one comes available every few years or something like that. It's the same risk that you run. It's like, oh, what if it pops up again? Right? So, okay, I think it comes down. No, it comes down to this. The comment in Discord was, "Oh, this Pop Five game sold for the same as the Pop." Like he said that the Pop Five game should sell the same as the Pop One game because it essentially only comes up as often as that Pop One game.
Yep.
And okay, I think you and I can both agree that a Pop One game, all else equal, would sell for more than a Pop Five game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was basically the comment. It's like it doesn't matter if it only comes up once every few years. You still know that there are four others out there. Just like the
Yes.
Doc Dodgers, right? You know there's more out there. Even if they never come up again, it's that risk that you run versus it actually being pop one, but then you're afraid of some like ghost in the side to come and like come
And
up
as
with all
soon as
your
that
other.
known pop exists, it just affects rarity, which affects supply, which
Yep.
should in turn affect the amount of money you want to pay for it. It's like Pokemon TCG on Game Boy. It's still expensive. It's a Pokemon game, right? Like very desirable game, but like there are collectors out there sitting on cases of that. I know this. A lot of collectors in the Pokemon scene know this. It's still valuable, but it's like, are there three, four, five, six cases out there still of that game, mint cases? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when people tell me, oh, sure, the 9.8 A plus plus, I pay 8,000 for it or whatever, it's like you gotta be freaking careful. And that's why I always say when I do auction coverage, I'll make those comments of like, it's a known case pack game. There is known supply out there. Because even if right now on the market, we can't see that supply, it's out there.
Yep. But okay, either way, I wouldn't want to be any part of Pop One only or
Me
Pop
neither.
Five with like for it to, I basically don't want the game to derive most of its value from any rarity, to be honest. Because if it's just a Pop One game, you got to be like, okay, how can there's no real market for it because there's only one of them out there. So the moment that you buy it, you'd have to sell. If it actually is Pop One, you'd have to sell it again to have another data point. Right.
Oh,
So unless if you can convince someone to be like, oh, because this thing is so scarce and other games have sold for X amount, this should be worth more. There's no confidence in building that price, like, price memory. Whereas
Yeah,
like
is this
that's
an
why
issue for the
that's why
market? Like even if we're
yeah,
not saying
it
pop
is.
1, let's say,
Yeah.
pop 5, pop 10. What's Mario 64? Maybe like pop 70? It's still not that high. Is this an issue for the
Yeah.
market?
Yeah, I mean, graded games in general, the rarity is when you compare it to any other graded stuff, and this might be because, we are still quote unquote relatively new compared to cards. I mean, sports cards. But TCG with Pokemon stuff, I mean, they print billions of them, right? Billions and billions of cards. So there's always going to be supply, but for sealed games, we have a finite supply, and I think for most people, that's part of the reason why we want to be in here because it actually does feel rarer compared to other stuff. But it also is an issue. It's like, okay, how can you actually create repetitive price movements to be like, oh, okay, I feel confident that this game is worth $2,000. If it only sells two times in a year, you can't be confident about that. But in cards, it sells like twice every day, like two times every day. So
Yeah.
you literally have like 700 data points in the entire year. Like, oh, okay, this thing's actually worth this much because 700 people paid for this.
And
Versus only two people paid for this in a year. I'm not sure if it's worth that much. So yes, it's difficult to it's an issue for games for
see,
sure.
I think that's why games like Rule of Rose, Earthbound, why these are such ubiquitous grails for people is because they are obviously they have some rarity. They do, absolutely. But like they also have that added scarcity. They actually have that added demand and they show up enough. They aren't too rare to keep
Yeah,
showing
aren't
up
too
so
rare.
that
Yeah.
people always see it at markets. You see these games at conventions. You see Earthbound cartridges. You see Rule of Rose. You know people are always paying, what, $300 for Earthbound now, maybe 600 for Rule of Rose. That's always happening because these games aren't actually rare. We can define what rare means all we want, but they're games
Yeah.
driven more by demand, or at least the correlation between demand and supply is a lot higher on both sides rather than it just being all rarity. Because even like factory sealed stuff, I don't think it's an issue for the scarcity or rarity of the super high grade stuff. That stuff will always have grail chasers anyway. It's to your point of the organic rarity. It's what drives a lot of this hobby and why a lot of people come in to begin with. It's why I love video games versus TCG or sports cards. I love organic rarity. This stuff isn't supposed to exist. That's why I love collecting it. But I do think it's an issue when even like say your most popular games, Pokemon Yellow right now, WATA Pop 375. It's not bad. That's a decent number. But your average person, IRL, are you ever gonna see a sealed Pokemon Yellow? Like maybe at a huge metro game store, maybe at a big convention. Like that's it. With the
They
Pop
don't even like sealed
375.
games anyway. Who cares, man? They
What,
don't even
sorry?
like sealed games.
Yeah,
They don't
no.
even like sealed games anyway. They don't care. They're like,
But
oh, just open it and play it, guys. Play your games.
if so to that point, right? If people had more reinforcement, what is exposure therapy, right? If people had more exposure to these things, or you always saw them at conventions, or you always saw them, whatever, maybe they wouldn't be as rare as they are, right? It's going back to Rule of Rose, it hasn't stopped the narrative from being that it's ultra rare, the rarest thing ever. Even if Pokemon Yellow or these games had two times the pop report, 700 copies of Pokemon Yellow, that's insanity. That's like Dead Space Ultra Limited is like one of the most limited collector's edition of that entire generation at 1,000 copies. And even that's not like rare. You know what I mean? Like it is rare, but
I,
you know what I mean.
I, I think over time we'll get there. I mean, we're seeing Scoons coming left and right. Remember, Scoons were supposed to only be pop one. Now it's like what, pop three or something.
Yeah.
Zelda TMs are falling out of trees last like this year.
I
Like
genuinely
and
think that's a
obviously,
good thing. I think it's a
yeah,
good thing to have more Zelda TM selling on the open market for more people to see it selling for even if it's 100, 200, whatever. I think it's a good thing.
yeah. I don't disagree, but yeah. I mean, I think over time when people, I see. Here's the thing. I think most people still don't know you can grade games. As much like as much attention as we give to Carl Job's video, like what, 2 million views or something, I still think 99% of people in games don't know you can grade your games.
I would agree.
So, I think just over time, maybe if there are like more news, like if we ever get another pump and there's more news articles about Mario 64 selling for $2 million now, more stuff will come out of the woodwork. Just like
And
we see now, like more stuff is coming out from game stores or people passing on, right? Like because of their collections, they got to sell it to these estate sales, and then you find treasure troves.
I
I
think
think
that's
that's
been the
happening.
most rare stuff has been coming from people dying, essentially, so far. A lot of the
Yeah.
stuff in the past year, anyway, has been.
Yeah, so I do think that I do think our hobby is not as rare as we think because we just don't see what's out there. Because the people who are holding it aren't in this YouTube space. They aren't in Discord. They're just have it locked in their closet until they pass, and then the state's got to sell them. That's
I
it.
agree with that point fully, where this hobby is not as rare as we think because
Yeah.
we aren't even close to getting through the massive discovery phase of more people passing, more people going through their parents' collection, and to your big point, a mass grading wave or whatever that happens, right? Because even in 2021, certain games had their rarity notion either confirmed or destroyed. Because look how many were graded of insert whatever game you want, right? There was a lot more of certain titles out there and a lot less of certain titles out there than people thought previously. Pro Sport Hockey on NES, I think it's still Pop 1, Times of Lore, right? Pop 1. Some games are absolutely confirmed as being rare as hell, and
Yeah.
other games weren't.
But even over time, I don't think they will stay pop one, and I think that that's good. I think there might only be two people out there who want Times Lore anyway, but at least the second person can get it, right?
Well, that's why, in my opinion, if anyone is ever like, I mean, there's two things I think you should always avoid in this hobby. Avoid a 9.4 or a 9.6 top of pop highest grade. Avoid paying that kind of premium, and always
Yeah,
avoid a pop one like overall type of item. Because I think
yeah.
both of those sell for big premiums from people chasing that, and it's almost inevitable that neither of those two things will hold. There's probably a 9.8 whatever of every game out there, and there's probably multiple of every single game out there. Those are two statements I'll make right now.
Even like NES Grail cardboard games, like Zelda TMs and stuff.
I think we will see a 9.8 TM before
Really?
before I die. Put it like that.
Before you
Before I
die?
die.
Okay.
I'll see a
Okay.
TM 9.8 Zelda. I think 100.
All
Look,
right.
I can harken back to this again, right? Oh, I used harken twice in this video. Big vocabulary. I can say again that 9.8 A++ oval Zelda that just sold, right? Oh my God,
Yeah.
the highest graded Zelda.
Yeah.
Another one was created. It took no time whatsoever. 3 months. More are out there.
And see, this comes from random people that are not in your Discord
Yep.
that aren't in like they come in your Discord and show you or whatever, but they're watching your videos or whatever they have somehow have a way to contact you, and then they're like, hey, look at this giant game that I have that no one knew about. And then it sort of like blows our minds, like, what? This happened again? Well,
Yep.
maybe we shouldn't be that surprised anymore. I mean, because even in vintage cards, you have like these Gaudis and all that stuff. Even 1930s Babe Ruth cards are being found now. Even then. So the difference is like, okay, is it a really high grade one? Probably not. It's probably like a low grade one. So that's where you maybe want to have some solace and being like, hey, I could be a little bit safe if I buy a higher grade to protect myself from more of these coming out.
Or even, right? Yes, that is one way to look at all the information. The other thing is, I think you can be less scared buying something that is, say, pop 50, pop 60, right? Because I think right now
Yeah.
there's a lot of notion where, oh my God, that's too many. Like, who cares about buying this because there's, whatever, Ocarina of Time. Oh, it's common as dirt, right? I think when you choose these games that are driven by scarcity and actually have the demand that push them, and we see this again, Pokemon, sports cards, whatever it is, it's actually the popular stuff that almost always wins out versus just your ultra rare stuff. And I think a notion, even like 7 Controller Breath of the Wild, right? That game will probably do really, really, really good, despite it being like the number one graded game that exists, period. It'll probably do good in the future because people care about it. It's a great title. And even though the supply is going to be as high as anything, demand will probably be there. It's Switch games
Yeah.
that are doing incredible.
What do you think about Celeste?
It's gonna be there. And
It's gonna
Celeste
be
is an
there.
awesome. You have
Yeah,
ultra
the
rarity
rarity.
and
Yeah,
ultra
ultra rarity.
demand. It is the perfect collectible. That's the beauty,
Did
right? You have
did you sell your 10
NWC.
yet?
You have
Did you sell your
Celeste.
10 yet? Did you sell your 10 yet?
You have NWC and you have Celeste.
Wait, I
That's all
thought you
you
want
need to
two.
know,
Did you
okay?
want 2K for it or 1K for
That's
it?
all you
I
need to
forgot what
know.
your
It's
price. I forgot exactly. Keep ignoring my comments.
that's all you
The
need to know
1K, you can't
about
even
that.
sell it for $1,000. Come on.
That's all you need to know.
Okay.
Will rare games then ever outsell SMB1? What's the final thoughts here on I guess the
Uh,
volatility of these ultra rares? Dino Peak's a great example.
Probably not. I
Never?
mean, just no. I don't think so. Unless we were talking about really crappy SMB1.
The
I
thing
don't
with
like.
these in my head, right? I think about Dino Peak, and it's like, we can go to that Super Nintendo console. I think a lot of this ultra rare stuff, when it hits the market for the first time, can sell for an amount that is so high and not necessarily replicable that you could
Yeah.
see an instance of time where Flintstones is the number one selling NES game of the year, right? Outsells every Mario, whatever it is. But like, it won't happen again.
Well, no, but here's the thing. It's like, okay, what are we talking about? Let's just assume both are 9/8.
Sure. Well, you can't put it against a matte sticker or like a gloss
No,
sticker.
no, I'm
Or
not
like,
putting that. I'm just saying like oval SMB one, right? Like
yeah,
what's an
yeah, oval
oval?
9/8, right?
Oval 9/8 are still like what 70, 80,000? Wasn't the last 9/8 well, like 70 or
They're
80K?
expensive. They're expensive.
So you think Flintstones 9/8 is gonna be 270, 80K?
I think it can do it once, is what I think. And it might not be this year. I get it. Like, I don't know when's the last
Okay.
time a Flintstones factory sealed came up. Dino
It's
Peak.
true. It hasn't come up in a long
Has
time.
it?
No, I
I
I
don't
don't
know.
recall. I actually don't
I
recall.
actually, like, I don't know if it has. I think we've seen
No.
Samson once or twice. I don't know if we've seen Dino Peak. So, like, there is still, like, ultra rarity has its place. Ultra rarity has its place.
Of
So
course,
long
yeah.
as it's ultra
Yeah.
rarity with some semblance of demand. Because I think you probably don't anymore. I still own some ultra rare stuff that's like worthless. GBA, 3DO, like, it's like Pop One type stuff. It's worthless. No one wants it. Um,
I sold
that's
off all my Atari prototypes for probably less than what I paid for them 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what people need to understand with
Yeah.
the rarity, scarcity, supply, demand debate. If we can like if I can drive one thing home, it's like focus on demand more than you focus on supply. Because in the long game or in, collectibles, I truly believe now that demand is, I don't want to say all that matters, but like how much does rarity matter?
Rarity would matter, I guess, if you can convince one dude to be like, hey, this is it. This is your only chance to get it. But you have to tell a story. You have to tug at the
You need
nostalgic
so much
heartstrings.
more with
You
it,
can't,
right?
and you can't, yeah, you can't just have it auctioned off. You basically need to like weave that story on IG, and some dude be like, oh wait,
You need to
this
be
is
like
it.
your own pumper. You need to be your own influencer
Exactly.
if you have one of one stuff or like ultra rare stuff. You have to be the person convincing people it's valuable.
I mean, sports cards guys do it all the time. I mean, there are lots of Jordans that are like one of ones even in the 2000s and 90s that are worth nothing near what you think they should be worth. Maybe only a couple $1,000 versus like this like completely like just 86 fleers, let's just say. Like even the
Yes.
PSA 9s are like 30,000 or whatever like that. So it does come down to something maybe so rare that people don't even know that it exists.
Yep.
So that's the story you got to weave. It's like, okay, if I have this one of one, I got to sell the story to be like, okay, this is the game that you really want because of XYZ. The gameplay is great. And this is your only chance to get it. And NES is going to the moon, so buy Flintstones
Eye
Dino
Fighter.
Peak. Pop 15.
Not rare enough. Not rare enough.
Not
But that's
rare
what it
enough
is.
for this. Not rare enough for this. It needs to be like a pop one and pop three. I
I
mean,
do want to touch quick. Sports cards are interesting because we talk about one of ones and stuff, and sports cards, and they print so many different one of ones that at that point you're basically, like you said, your narrative, your story, your provenance, your interesting thing. When you have 500 different one of one Tom Brady's, uh, one of one doesn't even really matter at that point. Which again
yeah.
comes back to the demand thing of like the certain one of ones are still going to be the better one of ones.
Yeah, I mean, I know in sports cards, people like they look at the rookie gear, they look at the base colors. Like before this whole one-on-one craze, it used to be like gold, red,
Yep,
black, all that, like all those, not panther skin or leopard junk or whatever, not that
I know.
stuff. So they have ways to sort of cut down on the manufacturing BS, but even then, it's a lot to deal with, and hey, sports cards is doing great. Games are dead. So maybe we should have more of that stuff. Like it
The
would be
biggest
great if
hobby
we
out
had
there.
more gambling aspect. Yeah, it is.
We need more one of one Switch releases and stuff. One of one limited covers. Now, let us know what you think. Rarity, scarcity, supply, demand. What side do you sit on? Do you target the ultra rare? Do you target the ultra demand? I've basically changed my philosophy over the past 5 to 10 years to now target stuff that people actually want versus stuff that is simply rare. Let us know if you have as well. Let us know how your own collecting goes, and talk to you guys next week.
Not Celeste.
Not Celeste.